Hello there, my fellow crypto friends. Welcome back to another episode of TA with MK. My name is MK, and I appreciate every one of you up to this point that has subscribed to my channel, that has joined my Telegram group. There's only a few of you so far, but I just want to emphasize that I really do appreciate you. If and when someday this channel grows larger, I will never forget the original members, and hopefully you'll enjoy going along for that ride should it happen. Now in today's video, we are going to discuss the SPX, what it did today as the traditional stock markets opened, because it's Monday here in the United States, and what we saw it do today and what we kind of expect over the next couple of days. There is some news coming out for some of the larger companies like Walmart as far as their earning reports. And essentially, we just would expect that to move the market. Now, there hasn't been a whole lot of positive sentiment in the market recently, so there's probably going to be a little more bias to the downside. I'll even admit I have a little more bias to the downside, but we're going to put the bias aside and just look at the charts and come up with what we think is a good strategy over the next couple of days. If you guys are liking the content, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's go. It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. Now, before we zoom back out and give some actual decent analysis, we should say, on the SPX, this is just a 5-minute chart. I just want to show you something kind of funny that I noticed today. So I'm actually back testing. Today was the first day. I'm going to do it for about 2 weeks just to try to get an idea of pre-markets conditions, which I went over in yesterday's video, red or green, and can it give us an edge on the beginning of the trading session the following day, right? And so, in yesterday's video, I had mentioned that the pre-market conditions were green in my video. However, they were actually red when my alarm went off this morning. And this was the first, it was actually right here. This is where it opened today, is around 4,010. And then it went down about almost 1% within the first, 15 minutes. This is 5-minute candles. And so it was just 1, 2, 3 candles. It went down about 1%, right? So not much of an edge would have been gained there, but this was just day one of this little test. But what I found kind of funny is it opened today at 4,010 and closed today at 4,008. So basically the SPX more or less did nothing today. Now, one reason I believe that the markets didn't do a whole lot today, but should do more over the next few days, is this week we have a lot of the major companies coming out with their earnings report, like I just said. Now, this is markets.businessinsider.com. Now, this is showing the calendar for these earning reports. This says yesterday on here. Now I'm in the United States and it's still actually 5:16 here, but obviously this goes off UTC, the standard time, and it is already tomorrow. It is the 17th as far as UTC time. So that's obviously what this goes off of. But yesterday for some of you, today still for some of us in the United States, some of these companies came out with their earning reports. Obviously there wasn't anything too bullish or bearish for today, but I think the reason is that if you look at tomorrow or today, if you're in other countries, it shows Walmart, JP Morgan, Home Depot. Now, these are some large companies. And then on the 18th, we've also got Cisco, AMD. Those are a couple big companies, Lowe's. But I really think that the market's going to kind of start giving us a direction for this week on the 17th, whether that's later today for you or tomorrow for those of us in the US. These are some pretty big companies, Walmart, JP Morgan, Home Depot. Those are some of the larger companies that we have, in the whole world really. And so I'd be curious to see what those earning reports end up being. If they're just somewhat neutral, that's actually a good thing. Obviously neutral or bullish would be good for the markets right now, as Bitcoin has been trying to show signs of a bottom. It looks like it would love to make another leg higher. I just think that's why not much happened today. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that tomorrow. I'll have an alarm bright and early set to wake up to see what the SPX does, what these earning reports say later today. Or tomorrow for me. Now we're on the SPX 1-hour chart, and I won't spend much time on this. Obviously, if you do follow my channel, I talk about this basically every day. But, just in case you are new to the channel or watching one of my videos for the first time, I will go over this very briefly. Now, we do know that Bitcoin is highly correlated with traditional stocks. So obviously, as the SPX goes, or as traditional stocks go, Bitcoin goes up, down. It basically just follows what the SPX does, just with a more exaggerated, typically at least more exaggerated. If the SPX goes up a few percent, Bitcoin goes up a few more percent typically than that, or vice versa, right? So we discussed at the end of our video yesterday that what we were looking for when the markets opened today is it wouldn't have surprised me. We were able to bust through last week as markets closed through this red box that I've been looking at as resistance. I wanted to see if we could flip it as support. I said it wouldn't surprise me if we made a run up to the bottom trend line of this bigger falling wedge, or back up to this orange resistance, get rejected and come back down. We didn't make it all the way to the orange box, but we did make it to the bottom of my potential trend line, where we've had, 1, 2, 3, 4 touches, right? And it got rejected, but it did bounce off the top of this red box and closed about halfway. And going back to a few slides ago where I mentioned, hey, more or less the SPX did nothing today. Well, again, I think the reason it did nothing is we're going to be kind of waiting on those earning reports to come out over the next day or two, especially the ones coming out tomorrow. Again, if you're in the United States anyway, later today if you're from another country, where it is already the 17th. So what we're looking for at this point with this major resistance is, if anything bearish whatsoever comes out, what I would expect, even if we get a little rally tomorrow, would be a rejection, come back down, and at that point we have to kind of assume that that will set the tone for the week. And at that point we'd be looking for more downside targets, probably even lower than this low, right? Bullish hopium would be that we were able to push back up above this orange, flip it as support, which would also put us back inside of this larger falling wedge. And then at that point, we would hope that we could get a little rally out of stocks back up to at least this major level, up around 41,050 to 60, right? And that might get the Bitcoin the power or the juice to break back above 32,500, maybe even make a run. Well, break back above 31K, we'll say for now, and then maybe make at least an attempt at 32K to 32,500. Now, I'm not going to give any real short-term analysis for Bitcoin tonight. I'll just briefly go over kind of a 5-minute chart that I've been sharing with my group today as we're trying to kind of get an edge on what direction the market's going to go. I just don't think Bitcoin's going to do much, until the stocks open tomorrow. I just really don't. If anything, it may trend a little bit higher, especially if the market thinks there's a better chance it's going to go down. That's what we call a bull trap, right? Like, it would make sense for Bitcoin to break back here above 31K. Well, this isn't 30K, sorry, 30,002. At this point, 30,200 to 30,250 is kind of this red zone of resistance that it broke down out of earlier today, right? And it's kind of creating a bullish pattern. I mean, you basically have, it's hard for you to see with my head in the way, but you have kind of a left shoulder, a head. I had mentioned in my group that this potential rising wedge broke to the downside. Watch for a bearish retest, and then this is the measured move. So that's something, as I'm making this video, we're obviously watching. But another, option, or something that could easily happen and tends to happen a lot when the market is choppy, is bull and bear traps. They're meant to trap people into getting bullish or bearish, and then the market goes the opposite way, right? So what wouldn't surprise me would be some sort of a break back over 30,250. Maybe it flips it as support temporarily, and over the night it trends back up here and makes a run at 31K. It's not what my bias is towards. My overall bias would be that we struggle again at this zone one more time and eventually trend back this way. But again, it wouldn't surprise me, and actually also just wouldn't surprise me if it just does a bunch of nothing, overnight. Maybe it just does this, ranges between here, a little dip below, a little dip above, just for short-term traders to potentially small bull traps and bear traps. But overall, I just don't think we'll see a big move until around 9:30 a.m. Eastern time in the United States, when the traditional stock markets open, and then we'll also keep an eye out for those earning reports. All right, and I did want to mention, if you guys haven't joined my Telegram group yet, the link will be in the description. It's only about 4 or 5 days old at this point, but we do have about 10 or 11 members. And I feel like it's been going really well to this point. I post charts in there throughout the day with my ideas, some of our charts from a couple days ago. As far as a few of our longs that we took, turned out really well when Bitcoin basically broke back above 28K and made its run to 31K. And so, if you want to get more up-to-date or quicker analysis, click that link in the description and come join our community. Now, one thing I did want to mention is, if tomorrow earning reports come out and they're somewhat neutral or possibly even bullish for those companies that we referred to, Walmart, Home Depot, and some of them, one of the charts that I will be looking for if Bitcoin is able to make a run higher over the course of this week is Alice. Now, Alice, I had an alert go off, which I'll show you. I guess I'll show you on this chart. It was actually the RSI, which is why I bring it up. So this RSI, this is the daily for it. It's been in this long downtrend. Maybe if you drew the bottom trend line, I didn't draw that on my chart that I posted in group, but more or less, you look down here kind of at, it's kind of a support level, if you will, for the RSI down here between, 24 and about 20. 20 is a common area to see a bounce, especially on the daily out of a stock. as long as Bitcoin's not super bearish. You know, obviously it can go as low as 0 theoretically, but typically around that area you'll start seeing a bounce. Well, it's quote unquote moving above this trend line. Obviously I would wait till tomorrow's daily close to see if it's able to stay above that. Also at that point you're looking for obviously some sort of a higher high than the last high in the wedge, and then you'd be looking then for it to flip this red zone as support, and this would be your entry. Now the reason why I track the RSI so often is because often the RSI breakout will front run price action breakout, and what I mean by that is if Bitcoin goes sideways for the next 24 hours or potentially even trends up, we can go over here to this 1 hour chart and you can see that price action is in this ascending triangle. You know, 1 touch up here resistance, 2 at the top of the zone, 3 at the bottom. You know, you have a valid trend line down here with 1, 2, 3. It's just been kind of riding along it right here for the 4th touch. And it's at about, I would say, close to 90%, at least 80+% full. And most of these patterns like this tend to break out between 70 and 75%. So it's kind of decision time for Alice. And obviously, I would believe it's just waiting like everything else on Bitcoin to pick a direction. But keep an eye out for Alice. Going back to this daily chart, if we bring back up the actual price action here, you could take a screenshot of this, zoom into the 1 hour. If it does get the breakout and is able to flip the level of around $3 basically as support, then at that point you can take a screenshot of this chart, and I would expect it to at least run up to this zone of about 340, probably between 320 and 340. Obviously Bitcoin remains bullish. It should at least run back up to retest this trend line up here at about $4. So keep an eye on Alice. Now, just to finish up today's video, I did want to mention that I do think that a bigger decision time is coming for Bitcoin, I think as early as tomorrow for those of us in the United States. I think that those earning reports and what the SPX does tomorrow will again set the tone for what Bitcoin it does this week. So obviously altcoins as well, because I'll follow Bitcoin, right? And what I mean by that is I mentioned in a previous video that we had like 2 daily candles in a row that were very bullish in my eyes. We had a dragonfly doji followed by an inverted hammer. Both are bottom type candles. They can signal at least short-term bottoms, meaning that price action really does want to reverse for at least a short-term rally. I think if the SPX can even remotely show some bullish signs, I think that it wouldn't be a surprise if Bitcoin over the course of the next, few days to a week makes a run at that 32,500, and if it breaks that, at least a 34 to 35k run. I even mentioned in the video that I made about this a few days back that a run over the course of this month all the way to 37k also wouldn't surprise me. Would make a lot of sense as a little bit of a quote-unquote dead cat bounce or a relief rally, right? So keep an eye out for some of these signs. I'll keep you guys posted over the coming 24 to 48 hours on whether or not I still think that's in play, or if the bigger, more macro downside targets are more in our short term. If you guys are liking the content, please remember to like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys tomorrow. It's TAwithMMK.